The Bill Meyer Show on 99.3 KCMD and FM 106.7 KMED.
Art Robinson joins me, and he is running for state senate. And I just, before I get on here and talk about some of the issues, Art, I just wanted to thank you for your service for getting conservatives and Republicans elected here in Southern Oregon with your help on signs and all those various other things. And you have probably done more to get people elected than many know. And I just wanted to thank you, in advance for that. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your kind words.
Yeah, indeed. Now, you have been running for, in the past, we've known you for trying to take out Peter DeFazio, which is certainly a worthy goal. It's been a tough one. He's been pretty entrenched there for quite some time. So you have shifted your focus, and now you're looking to become state senator. This is the district that Senator Herman Bertschiger currently serves in, and he's leaving that position, not running for re-election, so you're stepping in. And why do you want to take Herman's place? I'd love to get your take on it.
Well, we think that we can be useful by injecting a science and engineering perspective into the debate in Salem.
Okay.
And an example is the cap-and-trade issue now. It's being fought mostly on a very principled issue that Oregonians don't need higher taxes and higher fuel prices. But in addition, sort of missing from the debate is underlying science that also favors the position that we shouldn't have cap and trade. People have been led to believe certain things. For example, there's great worry that the oceans will rise. Well, the oceans are rising at about 1 inch every 20 years. They've been doing this for 200 years, but they're not about to flood Florida. So, and hurricane frequency hasn't increased, and tornado frequency hasn't increased. These are just scientific facts that don't make their way into the debate. And
I would also add that, coming out of a ice age, you would expect the oceans to be rising, would you not?
Oh, certainly. They've been rising for 200 years at that rate. It hasn't increased, and it hasn't been affected by carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. But these are scientific facts, and Salem actually is well organized. Each senator is allowed to speak for 2 minutes each day. Well, in 2 minutes each day, after a few days, I can acquaint them with the scientific facts that underlie the cap and trade debate, and I think that will be useful. The same sort of thing with our timber industries. I don't need to tell you or your listeners about the importance of timber in Oregon, but one of the things that is sort of political things that underlies this debate is that we have to save the trees, our vanishing forests. Well, the fact is that America has 50% more standing softwood and hardwood timber than it had 60 years ago. It's been increasing linearly every year at a rate of 150 million tons per year.
So you think that people are playing back old tapes of ugly clear cuts they would see by roads and things and figure that's about all there is to it and there's nothing left? Is that what they're thinking?
Yeah. Yes. And in fact, scientific facts gathered by the U.S. Forestry Service, if you look into it, are that our forests are flourishing and growing. In fact, paradoxically, going back to the last issue, they're growing because of the increased carbon dioxide and slight warming of the atmosphere as the temperature returns to its normal equilibrium level. So the facts about these things that a scientist or an engineer is interested in need to be in that debate. I'm not telling you that scientists and engineers should go and run Salem, but we need someone with that perspective, and that, of course, is this perspective that my life's work is in.
You know something, Art? I want to talk about your background here in just a minute, too. I'm glad you brought up the idea that we want scientific facts involved in the debate, but a big concern that I have had has been the rise of, Patrick Wood has written many books about this on technocracy, in which we want society completely managed and dominated by scientists because we know that we don't have souls. We're just little meat bags. And if you press the right buttons, or according to science, we'll do what the scientists want, and it's sort of the tyranny of the scientific experts. And a lot of the carbon cap and trade has been argued from this point of view, in which, the scientists say this. We always have to remember that It is not we, the scientists. It is not we, the technocrats. It is we, the people. It's like we're supposed to take scientific knowledge and then debate it with our elected representatives, because that's where the power is, not in just science. I just wonder how you feel, because you come at it from a scientific background.
Yeah, but this is what you said is absolutely true. We get these articles all the time. Scientists say, right? And this is nonsense. In the global warming debate, most scientists are saying nothing. They're keeping their heads down because it's politically can harm them. There's a little group that wants to point at the facts. There's another group that wants to get political points by saying, well, we have degrees in science and you should do what we say. And, of course, we shouldn't. The issue is one of truth and facts, and it has nothing to do with how many people are saying what. In science, everybody can be wrong at the same time.
Very true.
So what the perspective of real science is, what are the facts? What is the truth? And that has nothing to do with polling, although I've used that politically. Our family gathered the signatures of 31,000 American scientists saying that this global warming scare was really bunk. But that doesn't prove anything, except there's not a consensus of scientists. It doesn't say a thing about the underlying facts.
All right, very good. Now, your background here, it's pretty storied. I don't know if a lot of people know this. See, your faculty, UC San Diego. You were president of the Linus Pauling Institute of Science and Medicine, president of the Oregon Institute of Science and Medicine. What did you do within as you ran these institutions? What was your field of study?
Well, our study was biochemistry and medicine. We've done a lot on diagnostic medicine. What did I do? I'll tell you what I did. When I got out of graduate school and they put me on the faculty, I said, this is great. I get to play all my life, and they're going to pay me for it. I just had fun. But the fun was partly the biochemistry, which is great fun, and also we directed our fun toward trying to improve people's lives with quite a bit of medical research that has been successful, and we're pleased we continue it pretty vigorously. We've also done a lot in education. We've taught. My son taught at Caltech. I taught there a little bit, and we taught at Stanford and UCSD, and we also have a background in K through 12 education because our family publishes curricula. They're probably used by about 60,000 students around the world, around the country.
As a state senator, you would have the opportunity to influence state education policy. And
yes.
And I wanted to I'm just going to give you my take on it. And what would you, as Senator Art Robinson, what would you be able to do to help affect this? Because I see the educational system, even though I talk with educators all the time, and I really want to believe that they have the ability to change the system. And yet the system is obviously, to any reasoned observer, is impervious to any real change, because we have lock, stock, politicized educational unions and politicized work staff that completely control and dominate the process. And it's a centralized state process, even though we have local school boards that are rather emasculated. Because I know a lot of people that try to fight it, and it's almost like it is designed that it's supposed to be the schoolhouse, and there's nothing else that should be done about it. And the way we do it is that you have a unionized workforce, and we wouldn't design it this way if we were doing it right now. So what would you think is one of the cures for an ailing educational system?
Well, you just described the situation perfectly. Okay. And so it's a political problem. First, knowing a lot about it and with a lot of experience in it, that you get some resources if you're a senator. And the first few months, 6 months I was a senator, I'm going to study every aspect of the educational system carefully. I can see some simple things. For example, we spend about $360,000 per 30-student classroom for 9 months in our school system.
Right.
Well, the teacher doesn't put the teacher in the room and even raise her salary, that's only about a third of the money. Where's the other two-thirds going? That needs to be studied carefully before you make proposals for tweaking the system and improving it. But it's clear that the majority of the resources don't reach the classroom, and I'd like to study that pretty carefully as a state senator. Does
the model of education just in the United States in general make sense any longer? Because it truly is a Prussian model designed for industrial workers, kind of making pliable, maybe not too dumb, not too bright people that can go and work machines. I hate to be that cynical, but that's sort of the way it was designed.
Well, maybe, but 50 years ago, I went to school 50 years ago in the K through 12 schools. They were wonderful. American schools were the best in the world. They got me into Caltech and gave me a great career in science.
And I agree. What changed between then and now, Art?
The control. You just expressed it very carefully. Political and union control have shifted the thing, and now our schools are largely an excuse for union power rather than oriented toward teaching the students. One point I like to make is my uncle was a school teacher after the war. He came back. He started teaching again in rural Iowa. Taught a full load of classes, and they gave him a few bucks extra to be superintendent of schools. That's not the system we have today. We have a unionized, bureaucratic system. And I can't believe that we can't be improved. And look, there are 50 million American children in that system today. We need to do our best to improve it, even if we can only make very marginal improvements.
What about the push here for distance learning? That's now the official state policy because they can't have anything really open physically at the moment here. Do you think it's a good plan in the stopgap, and should it be expanded?
Well, yes and no. It's good to have this knowledge on the internet and electronically so it can be accessed. But there's more to education than just the facts. There's the discipline, the study discipline, the study habits the students should have, the self-confidence that is built by being in a classroom and working with the teachers. I don't think education should be shifted entirely to the internet, although it is good the information is there.
I think it actually makes a lot of sense for students who are already pretty motivated and disciplined, and not everyone's that way, though. I think we can be honest. Probably need a little more hands-on.
Right. I agree.
Okay. Art, as far as natural resource policy, essentially Oregon has imprisoned areas like Southern Oregon essentially as, we're supposed to be tourist meccas. And I assure you there's no tourist ferry right now for the foreseeable future. It's going to be saving our bacon, okay? What would you see as a proper natural resource policy as a state senator?
Natural resource policy, we should use our natural resources for the good of our people, and we should manage them responsibly. But as I mentioned, for example, in the lumber thing, when we came to Southern Oregon 40 years ago, there was a thriving lumber industry. Now it's dead. They killed it. And they killed it by depriving people of our industries from access to the forest by claiming that our forests were disappearing, which, of course, is untrue. We need to use our resources responsibly, but we need to realize that natural resources in the hands of productive men and women improve everyone's lives, and they improve the forest. But by kicking the lumber industry out of the forest, now we have more forest fires because we don't have people managing the forest properly.
7:52, I'm speaking with Art Robinson, and his website, by the way, is artfororegon.com. And I always let a candidate take the final 60 seconds or so of a talk, Art, and we'll have you back on between now and Election Day. And, of course, anybody else that's running too, we're happy to talk with you too, off and on. But someone talks with you in an elevator pitch, and how do you close the sale? What is it? Because maybe they don't know about you. I am aware of you, but many don't. Why vote for Art?
Well, if I'm talking to a businessman, he says, what are you going to do for me? And I say, I'm going to get the government off your back. Then I don't have to talk anymore. He just talks like a machine gun. There are other issues we haven't talked about. There's the pro-life issue, pro-gun, pro-Trump. The president's doing a great job, and I think we need to support him strongly. I'm just an American with a particular background. I've been fortunate in life. I think I can help in the Senate, and I'll do my best. I think that we need better government in Oregon.
All right, very good. And is there anything else you wanted to add before we took off? That was actually a pretty good quick postage stamp. You know how many people look at me like a deer in the headlights when I say, "Oh, give me your pitch," at the final minute. You got to have something ready, right?
I know.
You got to be able to hit the ground on that.
The standard thing is to say, "Please give me your vote."
Give me your
And
vote.
people say, I'm not a politician, and I know now more. I served as state chairman of the Republican Party, and I know more about politics now than I ever wanted to know. But one of the important thing is please consider our qualifications and goals, and please give us your vote.
I wanted to touch on that, if you don't mind, speaking out of school a little bit about the Oregon Republican Party. What do you think, as someone who has run it in the past, what do you think is missing that could be brought to bear? I know that Sam Carpenter has written a lot of criticism about what's been going on because the Republican Party, as a statewide force, it feels somewhat missing in action. Would you agree or disagree with that evaluation?
Well, I would agree. I hesitate to make comments about Republicans on the air coming into an election cycle.
I get it,
but I'll say these things. First, I think the grassroots Republicans across the state hold Republican principles more than they hold Democrat principles. But we've been very poor, we haven't done a good job. The county parties are excellent. When you run as a candidate, they help you a lot. The grassroots Republicans come out. But the organization of this, the state party needs to be improved quite a bit. And I'm involved in trying to make those improvements. But I'm hesitant to say too much about it. We're going into an election cycle, and I don't need to give sound bites to the Democrats about Republicans.
Okay, great. Yeah, apologies for even asking, but it's just been kind of an impression that I've been getting.
It's a good question, and your impression is completely true. Look, given the Oregon electorate, Republicans should be winning, and we're not. And the state party needs to be doing a better job.
All right, very good. Artfororegon.com. At first, when people were thinking, what is this? Is this like a contribution to the art community? No, it's Art Robinson. Artfororegon.com, artfororegon.com. Art, pleasure talking. Be well, and we'll continue to stay in touch.
Thank you very, very much.
You bet.